Welcome to a new style here on the channel. I want you to dive into the story in a different way. From now on, the visuals won't be the main focus. Instead, I want you to feel each word, each detail. You to close your eyes, or let the video play while you relax in a quiet place. Whether that's your room with the lights off, or even in the car on a night drive. I'll guide you into this experience. And if you're listening with headphones, get ready because every sound is designed to make you feel the tension of the story. By the way, where are you listening to this story from? Let me know in the comments. I was 23 at the time and moving to Los Angeles, trying to start a new life. I'm from Bakersfield, about a 2-hour drive away. But it felt like a world apart from LA. Back home, I lived with my mom and younger brother after my dad left when I was 15. My mom always said I needed courage to go after what I wanted. So after years of working random jobs and saving money, I decided to take a chance on the big city. I didn't have much money, so I was looking for something cheap and temporary. I found an ad on Craigslist that seemed perfect. A furnished room in a shared house, priced way lower than anything else I'd seen. The owner said he preferred to rent to young workers or students, people who wouldn't cause problems. The address was in North Hollywood, on a quiet street called Lancashire Boulevard. The location seemed decent, close to public transport and some stores. It didn't seem sketchy, and the price sold me. I spoke to the owner on the phone before going. He had a calm voice, seemed like a chill guy, maybe in his 50s. He said the rent was low because he preferred someone who could help maintain the house, like cleaning common areas. That sounded fair to me. He mentioned there were other tenants, but it was a quiet environment since most of them worked or studied all day. I arrived there one afternoon. It was a Friday, I think, if my memory serves me right. The place was simple but seemed well maintained. It was a one-story house with faded paint, but nothing creepy about it. There was a small front yard with some nearly dried-out plants. He greeted me at the door. He was a thin man with graying hair and a lined face, but he had a smile that seemed friendly. He wore a plaid shirt and worn-out jeans. He shook my hand and invited me inside. The house was darker than I expected inside. It wasn't dirty, but it felt kind of neglected. The hallway had an old carpet, and the furniture looked like it was straight out of an 80s movie. He showed me the room, which was small but clean, with a bed, a dresser, and a desk. I accepted it right away. It wasn't much, but it was within my budget. As he gave me a tour of the house, I noticed all the other rooms were closed. I casually asked about the other tenants, and he said they were traveling or working a lot. "You'll hardly see them," he said with a laugh. I didn't think much of it at the time. That first night, I went to bed early. I'd only brought the basics, a backpack with clothes, my laptop, and some toiletries. I planned to bring the rest of my stuff the next day. The room was quiet, which I appreciated, but there was something about the house that felt off. It was like that there was something in the air, but I couldn't put my finger on it, you know? Like you can just sense something's out of place, but you can't explain why. In the middle of the night, I woke up to a noise. It was like a creaking sound, like someone walking in the hallway. I checked my phone. It was 2:27 a.m. I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, but the sound continued. It was slow, deliberate, like footsteps of someone trying to be sneaky. I started to get uneasy, but I told myself it was probably one of the other tenants. Maybe someone had come home late and didn't want to make noise. But then I heard something different. A scratching sound at the door. It wasn't loud, but just enough to freeze me in bed. I held my breath and waited. The sound stopped for a few seconds, but then I heard a soft knock. Tap, tap. It was so faint that I almost thought I imagined it. I got up slowly and went to the door, trying not to make any noise. I looked through the peephole, and that's when I saw it. The landlord was standing in the hallway, facing my door. He wasn't doing anything, just staring. He wasn't holding anything, didn't look aggressive. But the way he just stood there motionless gave me chills. I watched him for a few seconds, trying to figure out what was going on. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He was just standing there like a statue. I backed away from the door as quietly as I could. I didn't know what to do. My phone was almost dead, and I didn't want to call the police without knowing for sure that something was wrong. After a while, I didn't hear anything else. I think I eventually fell asleep out of pure exhaustion. When I woke up, the sun was already up. I got up and went straight to the door. When I tried to open it, something was off. The lock wouldn't turn. I tried again, harder, but it seemed like it was locked from the outside. That's when I started to panic. I banged on the door and called out for the landlord. Nothing. I waited a few minutes and tried again, but still no response. The window in the room had bars on the outside, so that wasn't an option either. I checked my phone, only 5% battery left. I sent a quick text to my mom, something like, "I think I'm locked in. I'll try to figure it out and let you know." After some time, I heard footsteps outside. I started yelling, asking him to open the door. He responded in the same calm voice as always. "Just a minute, I'll be right there." When he finally opened the door, he had this weird smile, like he was nervous. He said the lock was old and probably jammed on its own. I tried to act like I believed him, but something felt very wrong. At that moment, I decided I needed to get out of there as soon as possible. I told him I needed to run some errands and asked if I could leave my things in the room. He agreed, but kept looking at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. I grabbed my backpack and left. Out on the street, I called a friend who lived in the city. I told him everything, and he insisted I shouldn't go back. I spent the day at his place trying to figure out what to do. In the end, I went back just to get my stuff, but I didn't go alone. I asked my friend to come with me. When we got there, the landlord looked surprised but didn't say anything. I grabbed all my things quickly and left. After that, I started looking into him more. I didn't find anything specific, but I noticed he had multiple ads on Craigslist, all with the same description. I kept wondering what might have happened if I'd stayed longer in that house. I still think about it sometimes. I don't know what he wanted or why he acted that way, but something tells me I made the right choice by leaving. Since then, I've been way more cautious about anything that seems too good to be true. And honestly, I've never rented anything off Craigslist again. I don't really know where to start, but I guess the best way is to explain how my life was before all this. There's literally nothing special about me. I live in Clarksville, Tennessee, a small, quiet town that's growing fast. I work split shifts at a restaurant near downtown, doing a little bit of everything. Cashier, cleaning, and sometimes even helping in the kitchen when someone's missing. It's not a dream job, but it pays the bills and gives me some free time to take care of my mom, whose health isn't great. I live with her in a house on a road that doesn't even have a proper name, but everyone around here calls it Willow Lane because of the trees lining it. The house is rented, small but cozy. It has 2 bedrooms, and I stay in the smaller one. My mom spends most of her day watching TV or trying to sew, but her hands aren't the same anymore, so she usually gives up halfway through. My dad left us when I was about 10 years old, and since then, it's just been the 2 of us. I'm always looking for side gigs to earn a little extra. You know how it is? Money's always tight. That's how I started browsing Craigslist. I'd already gotten some jobs through there. Simple stuff like yard cleaning, helping with moves, and even dog sitting. So when I saw an ad from a woman looking for someone to babysit her son for one night, it seemed too easy to pass up. All I had to do was drive to a house in a more remote area, watch the kid, and make $200 for just a few hours. The money would help a lot, especially with my mom's medical bills. The ad was pretty straightforward, but there were some details that seemed a little off. The woman didn't include any pictures or even give her or her son's name. It just said something like, "Looking for a reliable babysitter. Safe location, one night only. Must have your own transportation." There wasn't a phone number, just an email to contact. But I didn't think much of it. I sent a message, and the same day I got a response. She thanked me for my availability and explained it was an emergency. She said her son was about 6 years old, calm and well-behaved, and that all I needed to do was keep an eye on him while she ran some errands in town. It all seemed legit, but the way she signed her emails with just S made me a little suspicious. Still, I needed the money. On the agreed day, a Saturday night, I got in my car, an old sedan I bought used years ago, and drove to the address she gave me. It was about 20 miles outside of town, near a place called Palmyra, which isn't much more than a dot on the map. The road was winding and surrounded by tall trees that blocked out the moonlight. My car was making all sorts of noises, and I kept praying it wouldn't break down. When I got to the address, I immediately thought something was off. The house was in the middle of nowhere, with no other buildings around. It was a big house, but it looked abandoned. The windows were shut and the paint was peeling everywhere. I parked the car and sat there for a few seconds, feeling like something wasn't right. But again, I thought about the money. I knocked on the door and waited. I didn't hear anything inside. I tried again, but still nothing. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to the woman asking if she was there. She replied quickly, saying she'd left recently and that the door was unlocked so I could go in. I hesitated, but ended up turning the knob and stepping inside. The house felt even stranger on the inside. It was dark, but I could see there weren't many pieces of furniture, and they were covered in dust. Nothing about the place suggested someone actually lived there. The air smelled musty, like the house had been sealed up for a long time. I walked through the hallway calling out, but the only response was the echo of my voice. After walking around for a bit, I heard something coming from one of the rooms. It was a low sound like a child crying. My heart started racing, but at the same time I thought, okay, she mentioned the kid. He must be in there. I followed the sound to the room. The door was slightly open, and when I pushed it gently, I saw an old recorder sitting on a chair, playing the sound of a child crying. There was no child. That's when I really started to feel scared. I turned off the recorder, but the silence was even worse. I felt like someone was watching me, even though I couldn't see anyone. I tried calling the woman, but she didn't answer. Then I heard banging on the front door. The knocks were loud, and someone outside started talking. It was a deep male voice, and he was saying my name over and over, like he knew me. He said strange things like, "I knew you'd be perfect. You're exactly who we need." My stomach sank. I had no idea how he knew my name. I didn't say anything and started backing away, heading toward the kitchen, looking for another way out. I heard footsteps circling the house, and he kept talking, like he was trying to convince me to open the door. I got to the kitchen and saw a window leading to the backyard. I opened it as quickly as I could and climbed out. I fell awkwardly, hurting my knee, but I didn't stop. I ran to my car, unlocked the door, and got in. The car took forever to start. It felt like the engine was betraying me at the worst possible moment. But when it finally roared to life, I floored the gas and sped away. I thought I was in the clear, but after about 5 minutes on the road, I saw headlights behind me. It was a black car, big, probably a truck, and it was following me. It sped up when I did, getting closer and closer. My mind was racing, trying to figure out who it could be and what they wanted. The road was narrow and full of curves, and I could barely keep control of the wheel because I was so nervous. The car behind me started honking, like they wanted me to stop. But I knew that if I did, things could end very badly. I kept driving, trying to stay calm and look for a way out. After about 15 minutes of being chased, I saw the lights of a city ahead. It was like instant relief. The car behind me slowed down, and before I reached the first houses, it made a sharp U-turn and disappeared. I sat there for a few minutes, breathing heavily, trying to process what had just happened. I got home almost in tears, but my mom was asleep, and I didn't want to wake her. I spent the whole night thinking about what could have happened if I'd stayed in that house, or if the car had caught up with me. The next day, I tried to find the ad again on Craigslist, but it was gone. No trace of anything, like it had never existed. To this day, I don't know who those people were or what they wanted with me. All I know is that after that, I never trusted easy jobs or internet ads again. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that if something seems too good to be true, it usually is.